Welcome to St. Louis, Missouri. So we're here to learn how to build a $100 million retail product brand from one of the most dynamic entrepreneurs and leaders that I have ever met. The founder and CEO of First Form Nutrition, Andy Frisella.
I'm Andy Frisella, and I'm your guy.
So today, Andy's going to take you behind the scenes of First Form Nutrition as a company and a brand, and he's going to give you, frankly, a world-class education on how he's built it from the ground up. Now, the lessons that you're about to learn apply to any kind of company in any industry, and we've got, frankly, a lot of ground that we're going to cover. First and foremost, competition. So, obviously, Andy's in one of the most crowded markets in the world with hundreds of competing brands. So he's going to start by teaching you how to create a product that stands out from the crowd. Again, this is a lesson that you can apply to any business in any industry. Next, he's going to teach you how he started making his first sales when he was flat broke and without any kind of marketing budget, and how you can do the same. Now, once you do have customers, you have to do everything you can to keep them. So Andy's going to teach you how to create a culture and a brand that people stay loyal to forever. Now, part of building that culture is providing your customers with different ways to live your brand, such as apparel. So he's going to sit down and teach you some of the most valuable lessons that they've learned developing the First Form apparel line. And finally, we're going to talk about the impact that Andy's leadership through his MF CEO podcast, which receives 1 to 2 million downloads a month, has meant to his company First Form as a whole. Is this something that you should be doing as a CEO for your company and your brand? Well, we're going to find that out here today. This is without a doubt one of the most valuable lessons that we've ever produced here at Self-Made Man, so get ready to take some notes. And without further ado, here is Andy Frisella. Well, guys, here we are with Mr. Andy Frisella. Andy, thanks so much for having us, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, this is super exciting.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a chance to have you on Self-Made Man on the podcast previously, and I've enjoyed watching your leadership, through what you've been doing with the MF CEO project and all that you've done. So it's a pleasure to make it out here to St. Louis and to see the headquarters and meet in person.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Absolutely. So for those who are watching this who are not familiar with your story and with First Form and the supplement superstores, let's spend about 10 minutes and go through that and bring everybody up to speed.
Yeah, cool. We started our company in 1999. We didn't have investors. We didn't have rich parents. We didn't have anything other than the desire to just want to be in business. You know, I grew up doing all the entrepreneurial things. You know, selling baseball cards, going door to door, having lemonade stands and snow cone stands and all the little kid stuff that, a lot of true, in the blood entrepreneurs do. So I always knew I wanted to be in business. And when we got to be, my first year I went to college, I knew for sure that this was not the path I wanted to be on. So I talked to my business partner, Chris, who was my best friend. We're like, hey, let's just start a business. And so our first thing was we looked at a tanning salon. We're like, all right, we're going to open a tanning salon. And the only thing was tanning beds are like 20 grand a piece at the time. So we didn't have any money. So that was out. The next thing was we looked at a guy here in St. Louis who had supplement stores, and he was, to us, he was killing it. And we're like, all right, let's do that. So we had $12,000 that we had saved from painting the stripes on parking lots. And we took that 12 grand and we went around Springfield, tried to find a space to start this retail store. And we found a guy who would finally rent to two 19-year-old kids, but he wanted all the rent up front. So that was $1,000 a month. So it was 12 grand, it was all our money. So to get our business financed, we went out, we got the pre-approved credit cards. We financed everything on credit cards. We built our shelves from lumber at Home Depot, and basically started a company.
Yep.
Our first day in business, we sold $7. I still remember the guy's name. Nick Vespa was the customer's name. The second day in business, We sold nothing. The third day business sold $23. It took us 8 months to have a day over $200, and so it was as humble of beginnings as you could possibly imagine. We lived in the back of that first store, on and off for the first 2 years.
Yep.
So that's how we got into business. We didn't have money to market. We didn't have money.
Let me just stop you there. What drove you guys to keep going for that amount of time without giving up on the vision?
There was really no vision at that point other than we wanted to own a business. And we were kids, we were in college, and it was cool to say we own a business.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So we didn't have these big dreams and big vision. But it's funny because the lack of business that we had, both of us are problem solver type people. So even though there was no big vision, we started looking at, man, how can we at least get 5 people in here a day instead of 1?
Right. So it became a puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely became a puzzle to solve, and that's how it. If you have that entrepreneurship character trait, I mean, as well as anybody that is just something that you cannot help.
Yeah.
So the puzzle in itself became something that was all encompassing for us, and then the vision developed from that. If that makes sense.
So what was the turning point? Was there something you did, something you implemented, an idea that took you guys into momentum essentially and
For sure.
started paying the bills?
So, like a lot of people that start out in business, people start a business to make money. And when people are very focused on money, like we were young kids, young men, we wanted the dream.
Yeah.
And when people focus in on the money, you're not focusing on the right thing. Okay, and so we were always focused on how much money we could make and what we could do and this and that, and we never made any. And I'm saying for years we never made any. The first 3 years I made $0. The next 6 years after that I made $695 a month. So it took me 10 years to learn this lesson.
Yeah.
So that I'm about to say.
Yeah.
So eventually I got to a point where I'm like, all my family, all my friends, everybody was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you still doing this? And I can't blame them looking backwards. And so I started to kind of think that too. I'm like, we don't make much money doing this, but I don't want to go out and dig ditches. So, what do I like about this? And what I liked about this was that we had these stories where people would come in, they would get educated, they would leave, they would come back 6 months later and be a completely different person, lost 100 pounds, gained 30 pounds of muscle, all kinds of self-confidence.
Yeah.
We hear these amazing stories day in and day out. And so instead of focusing on the money, we started to focus on creating those stories and creating that impact with those people and helping people. And when that happened, when we consciously went to solving problems, then the money started happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the growth started happening. So, but it took us a long time to learn that.
Took me 6 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
So if you're a young dude watching this or a young lady watching this, learn this lesson quick, because the more impact you can make, the more the problem you could solve, the money will come quickly.
Don't focus on the money.
Yeah, it always follows.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely a huge turning point for us. Was focusing on the solution versus focusing on what we could get.
So that was under the Supplement Superstore,
right?
Brand,
right?
And you've grown that to over a dozen locations now.
Yeah.
But when did that turn into First Form?
So about the same time. So when we started really making money and doing well, Chris and I had all kinds of time for years to sit around and examine other brands.
Mm-hmm.
The brands that we were selling in our stores. We would look at the companies and say, hey, these guys are doing this right, but these guys are also doing this and this wrong. And if we were to do it, we would do this, this, and this. And so we always had these calculated conversations based around what we would do if we ever had the opportunity to do it. And when we started making money in retail, at the time, we didn't really see ourselves growing the retail across the country, but we saw that you could grow a brand across the country and internationally and all those things. So we decided to start a brand and do it the way we wanted to do it. And it started out just as humble. When we first started, I was picking up the orders from our manufacturing partner in the back of my pickup truck. And I would pick it up, I would take it to my garage, it would sit in my garage until we sold it in the stores.
Yeah.
And that was how we started. And then we went from a 12,000, or we went from my garage to a 2,000 square foot space in the back of one of our retail stores, to a 12,000 square foot space, to an 18,000 square foot space, to a 60,000 square foot space, to a 25,000 and 225,000, which is what we have now, in the course of 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because that's a big transition.